Sometimes when we encounter something new in life, we say, oh, cool. And immediately, as we get curious, we may ask certain questions. So we may say, oh, why is it like that? Or how is it doing that? Or even how does it work? And some other times we may just remain curious and say, oh, cool, and just experience this new thing, whatever it is, as it is. And the reason I want to share with you the differences between the why, the how, and as is because this, I realize this has been a major frame behind many of the transformations I have gone through the years. And by sharing it, I really hope you will get in a level of understanding that will allow you to experience similar things if you want to go in these directions, of course. So let me tell you a bit more about it and why is it important. This comes from the idea of this came from a workshop I gave. It was actually a self-hypnosis workshop I gave in Prague. And to some degree, the self-hypnosis, the notion of hypnosis in general requires, or it's felt more to be enhanced when we just let the experience happen, when we immerse ourselves in the experience, when we let go of trying to find the why and the hows. And I guided people through this process. I showed them how to do it themselves, and they had profound experiences. They were like, "Oh, like I didn't know this was," which highlights the degree of possibilities that are there actually when we just engage with an experience as it is. The point here also, though, is that one of the people that were there, at some point, they asked me a question. They asked me a question of that many other people have asked me, by the way. They asked me a question: How does this work, or why does it work? And it's not when we ask these questions, it's not only the words, but also the manner with which we ask the words. And in many instances, I've met that, and I was doing that in the past too. And getting past that was one of the things that allowed me to have much richer experiences in life. And I would love for all of you actually to have richer experiences as well, whatever these experiences may be for you. So asked me how does this work, and it was also with a manner of a sense of disbelief, if you want, a sense of disbelief that, oh, like this experience doesn't match my database of what my brain is familiar with, and that's normal. It was a new thing. But instead of integrating it directly, I need first to understand before accepting it, which is also a very human thing because when something is very different, it kinda challenges our current perception of the world. So the mind tries to like rationalize, try to look to uh, seek a resolution. However, this also indicates a certain limitation. And let me tell you a bit more about it. Okay, the mind seeks a resolution, and this indicates a certain. Whenever we encounter something new in life, whenever we have a new experience, it's very natural for certain questions to arise. And some of these questions that typically come is like, oh, like, why is it like that? Or how does it work? How is it doing that? And some other times we can be curious about it and be like, cool, wow, and just experience the thing, appreciate the thing as it is. And all of these represent different actually kinds of experience. And I realized lately that this has been behind of the separation between the why, the how, and the as is has been uh, part of the major transformations I have been getting myself and how my experiences got richer. And that's why I'm sharing this today with the hope and the desire you also have even richer experiences as well. So let me tell you all about it. This is coming from the realization of this first time came from a workshop I was giving. Actually, it was a self hypnosis workshop I was giving in Prague, and I was guiding people into having some profound experiences and also how to generate them by themselves. And they were like, "Yeah, oh wow, like I didn't know this was possible," because it was a new experience for them. It was a new way of realizing what their mind, what their intellect is capable of. And after we finished, I got a question. I got a question, which is a question very typical for people in sciences, engineering, or in STEM in general. If you don't know me, I used to work in sciences and engineering, and many of the people I know actually are in these fields. Actually, I was in theoretical physics, and asking why and how questions is like very ingrained in our minds, and it's very ingrained in our culture in general. But specifically for science and engineering people or STEM people, it's even more because that's what we've been trained to ask and think. So someone asked me, another friend have asked me that, like, oh, how does it work? Like, why this works? Why self hypnosis work? And essentially, it's not just a question always. It's also the manner behind it, and the manner this question is being asked typically indicates a sense of disbelief, if you want, where the brain is like, "Ooh, whoa, that was an awesome experience, but look, it doesn't fit anything I'm aware so far." And instead of just integrating it directly, it seeks to rationalize it first because that's what it has. That's the way the brain has been trained through culture, actually, to uh, integrate new experiences through rationalization. So, and this comes with a sense of disbelief because this means whenever we seek a rationalization, we seek an interpretation, and we seek an interpretation according uh, to what we are already familiar with. And as you can see, this can become limiting by itself. So essentially, I like having the separation. I like having the separation of experience based understanding versus understanding based experiences. You see, experience based understanding, it means that I just experience the things. And as I experience the things, I accept the experiences they generate and I try to extend my understanding based on the experiences I have. And this allows me to expand, to extend. While on the other hand, understanding based experiencing means that to a certain degree that I can only experience the things I that fit my current understanding and everything else I reject. And I feel many people, many of us are stuck in an uh, ex, um, understanding based experiences. We only acknowledge experiences which satisfy our understanding, and as a result, our understanding never gets larger, or if it does, it gets in a very slow degree. So let's go a bit back then. Now I told you about the importance of this and why it matters on a bigger level. Interesting, right? I'm telling you about the why to justify it. That's the irony in it, right? We need to use to some degree the mental models we have in a more abstract sense to uh, go beyond them. So the thing is that the why, the how, and the as is are by themselves completely different experiences. Let's suppose we drive our car to the beach. the question of why I'm driving my car to the beach generates a completely different experience from how I'm driving my car to the beach, and a completely different experience from just driving the car to the beach, even perhaps with, not even all the time thinking that I'm driving my car. So the why is more like, oh, why I'm driving my car to the beach? And it can be like, oh, like, okay, because I have a car and I saw a movie yesterday that had the sea, and this reminded me really need to see the sea. So today I went in my car and I'm going to the beach. The how is more like about the relational mechanics, the mechanisms through which something happens. So the how could be um, how I'm driving my car. Well, I'm focused and I am holding the wheel and I'm checking my mirrors and pressing the gas pedal and the brake pedal, changing gears if you have a manual. That's the how. And the as is, well, it's as is. So, and you can realize, I hope, that these are completely different experiences, all by themselves. And not just when driving a car, in any other aspect of life, right? When we ask why, we are not fully immersing ourselves in the experience as it is. And that's neither good or bad, it's just a different experience, and we need to be aware of that. You see, we said the how is about the relational mechanics, the why is about like seeking beyond. It's about seeking principles beyond what we are currently doing. And these principles actually, the idea that we have this principle kind of generates a sense of belief, a sense of satisfaction that guide our commitment to the experience, right? So I can do this experience because I understand the why, I understand some higher principles. And the same understanding, satisfaction of understanding, comes with the how. It's personal, but it gives us this like, oh yeah, okay, I understand how this works. That means, okay, now I can go into it. I feel safe. It gives a sense of safety and a sense of commitment. And we have this why, we have this higher principle. Someone may think this is probably some guru or metaphysical stuff, but we have this even in our world, right? People will say in the world of therapy and coaching that we rewire our brain, we retrain our nervous system, and I mean, to some degree, it's true. But the thing is, while this happens, we are not in here checking like how the neurons have changed. We just believe in this in a higher principle, believe in this higher why. And same way in science, many times, right? We let's say we have the equations that describe systems in physics, and the equations where they come from. The equations come from a mathematical thing called the axion. And whenever we take the extremal of the axion, it's a mathematical term, we find the equations of motion that describe the system, and then we see that, yeah, these are the correct equations of motion. But to the best of my understanding, maybe I forget something here, we have no way to to prove that the axion, uh, minimizing the action is what works. It's more like a higher principle that guide us. We always have some higher principle that guide us and satisfy a why, a deeper why that allows us to feel safe and go through and do the thing. And the same is also like in various belief systems, in religions, and other areas too. So the why then is about the deeper reasons. And these deeper reasons can become a sense of belief because sometimes people, when you tell them, oh, like just go with it as is, they will say, do you mean I need to believe in it? No, actually, no. Because believing in it, the idea that we need to believe in something in order to experiencing it, actually means that we either turn this actual thing into a higher principle by itself, or we have to seek a higher principle in order to believe in it and go into it. So these how and whys have a sense of attachment, actually, that doesn't allow us to experience things as they are. And I want to talk about like the function of the why, the how, and this sense of attachment because it's important. So here is, I believe, what can be a path for most of us, because the truth is, most of us we seek why and hows even at an unconscious level before we go into something, and that's fine because that's how our brain is trained to think. The matter of fact is that first of all, we have to acknowledge that these are different experiences when we actively do it. But sometimes we have an experience and we need to generate a why in order to integrate the experience. And as we generate a why, we kind of like make a loop and return to the experience. So instead of asking the why while we're having the experience, we can say to ourselves, okay, I provisionally accept this experience. So there is a difference between saying, oh, why does this work? Oh, does it satisfy the whys I have in my head about how things work? No, okay, I reject it. Or if it satisfies them, then I take it. This is a very digital thing. But if we want to have an understanding based on experience, we can like provisionally integrate an experience, make it ours, seek a why for it, independent for other whys we may have in our database. And when the why makes it circle and we understand, then combining the whys, we can increase our understanding based on experience. And then we can actually integrate this experience even more. So here is the interesting thing. When we integrate an experience even more, because we found our own unique whys and we extend, there is a distinction here as well. Now, when we go into the experience, do we go with the experience with the belief in the why, or we now go with the experience as it is? So the why can give us a satisfaction, which is good, but does it still become an attachment when we're going to experience something? Or it's satisfaction that, so does that, okay, now I can just go in it and immerse myself in it. That's something also to keep in mind. And right, and there are all these nuances to that. And if we go to a more, meta level, if you want, there are like interconnections between the whys and the hows. So sometimes the whys are basically how driven why. The whys are how driven whys. So we may be asking why, but we may really be seeking the how. Basically, how things interact together, like particles. And sometimes we may be asking how, or our how is actually driven by why, like the intention behind our how is a why. So we ask how things connect because we really want to look deeper, right? And this is important to have in mind when we ask these questions for the following reason. Like, here is what happens. I found this a lot while studying physics and in theoretical physics and string theory and all that. That if we ask why long enough and we go deeper and layer under layer under layer, then after a certain point, the why becomes a how. There is no deeper why to ask. The only thing we can find is how things are connected with each other, how things interact together. To give you an example from the material world, it's like we have matter. Matter is made from molecules. Molecules are made from atoms, atoms from particles, and then particles from fundamental particles, even strings if you want, even though that's not experimentally verified at this point. However, let's stay with fundamental particles. So if we ask like, oh, like why, why there is the periodic table of elements. And the periodic table of elements actually show us that there are, there is a structure in the atoms, essentially, and the structure actually highlights to us the idea that there are particles, and the particles lead to fundamental particles. But at some point, if we reach the fundamental particles, then we can only talk really about how these particles interact and what are the rules in which they engage, and then that's what it is. The why turns into a how. And by the way, what I'm saying here applies not just to particles, right? It applies to any knowledge system, even if it is a religion, right? Like we may say like, oh, like why did this happen? Okay, oh, because the gods were angry, and we say like, oh, like, and why they were angry, and then we go and say, oh, like they were angry because like this happened and this other thing happened, and the why becomes essentially an interaction dynamics between different gods or gods and humans and anything of that nature. So after we reach a certain level of fundamentality, the why becomes a how. Now, here's an interesting thing, because we said like there is also like a why-driven hows. Sometimes we ask the how to find the why. So basically, sometimes we cannot look deeper into something. We cannot look into the deeper whys unless we find the hows that reveal the why. So sometimes we cannot find the why unless we establish a deeper why, unless we establish the basis of interactions, the hows, at the current level of experience, of understanding the whys have taken us. To give you an example, let's take the periodic table of elements again in chemistry. And, there is a how question. There is a how question of how, um, how can these atoms be arranged? And by arranging them according to our properties, we see some structure. And then this how that reveals us the structure, reveals us the patterns, actually show us that there must be a deeper why. And now we can go dig deeper. So there is a question here that, like, if the why beyond a certain level becomes a how, and if at a certain level the why is more easily revealed, if we have the hows first, perhaps why driven hows, but we need to have the hows first. Is the why the thing we must be having more prominently in our minds all the time? Is it the one? I don't know, but sometimes must be. Some other times, not necessarily. Can be a driving force, but it doesn't have to be like the necessary condition for something to be found. And if at a certain level of understanding we have to first find the hows by examining things as they are, examining this current level as it is the examination as it is happening more easily if we accept an experience first as it is, right? Because accepting an experience as it is will allow us to generate new ideas about the hows, about the whys, and then really find things that extend beyond our current level of understanding versus try to compare new experiences with the whys and hows we have already established. All that being said, like in our everyday life, it's useful to be able to, I believe it's useful to be able to alternate between all of these. So at a certain moment, we may find ourselves asking the why about something, and this is valid, right? But if we realize that, it's very important to realize it in the moment, and either in the moment or later when we re-engage in an experience, be like, okay, now I will shift. I will shift to the how, or I will shift to the experience as it is. And there is new magic when we do that. There is new magic being revealed when we place ourselves at the center of an experience and allow us to go at it in many different ways and then bring the knowledge from each one of them together, we build new understanding. We build understanding we couldn't have imagined before. And there is a certain magic into it. There is a certain appeal to it, which we have to go into, that will, because it will enrich us. It will enrich our experiences and the connections our mind makes, and the way we can perceive beyond, whether we want to think scientifically, whether we want to think spiritually, in any matter. It doesn't matter. When we place ourselves in the center of an experience, train in ourselves the plasticity of experience, our ability to go into it in different ways and pull pieces of knowledge and awareness and understanding and perception from all the different ways we can go into an experience, with a why way, with a how way, with the as is way, and see what new levels of whys, what new levels of hows, what new interactions that we haven't thought before can come from there. What will make our experiences richer. And I wish for you the same as it happened to me, and as I keep also working on it and making myself better at it, because I always find new spots I can get better at it. So, yeah, let me know if you try this, how this resonated with you. I would love to know, because it's kind of like, I know it's a very meta idea, and I would really love to know what stayed with you from this. And leave a comment, subscribe, or like. I would love to know from you.